Welcome to Bedtime Science. Tonight, in the quiet hours, we travel to parts of Earth where almost no human eyes have ever looked. There, life still finds a gentle way to exist. Did you know that more than 3/4 of the animals in the deep ocean can produce their own light? That single fact tells you something about the dark places. They are not empty, they are full of quiet life. In the next slow hour, we will look at 5 hidden worlds: the lightless ocean below 1,000 meters, the hot mineral vents on the seafloor, the sealed lake beneath the Antarctic ice, the crystal caves in northern Mexico, and the cave waters where pale animals live for a century without ever seeing the sun. Before we begin, if you find comfort here tonight, you might consider subscribing. It helps our small, quiet community grow. And if you are still awake later, you can leave a soft comment about which hidden place to visit next. Now let's begin. We start at the surface of the sea. The ocean from a boat is a thin skin of light and wind. Below that skin, the descent begins. Light fades as it falls. By 1,000 meters down, there is no light at all. The ocean keeps going. In the Mariana Trench, the seafloor lies almost 11 kilometers below. Between those two depths is an entire biosphere. It is cold, it is heavy, it is dark, and it has existed for billions of years. Pressure rises by 1 atmosphere for every 10 meters of descent. At the floor of the Mariana Trench, the water pushes down with about 1,100 times the pressure we feel at the surface. On a single square inch of skin, that weight is roughly 8 tons. It is like a small car balanced on a single fingertip. This kind of pressure does not just crush, it distorts. Proteins lose their shape, DNA bends, cell membranes thicken. The molecules that life is built from begin to fail under that load. So how does anything live there? The Mariana snailfish is the deepest known fish in the world. It has been filmed at 8,178 meters down. Its body is pale and small and almost translucent. Its bones are not fully hardened. A small change in one of its genes keeps its skeleton soft and flexible. A rigid skeleton would shatter under that pressure. A bendy one absorbs it. The snailfish also carries a special molecule called TMAO. The full name is trimethylamine N-oxide. The name does not need to be remembered. What it does is gentle and clever. It rearranges the water molecules around proteins, shielding them from being squeezed out of shape. The snailfish carries 5 copies of the gene that makes TMAO. Most fish carry only one. Researchers at the University of Leeds worked this out in 2022. A later study, published in the journal Cell in 2025, found something strange. Below 6,000 meters, the level of TMAO in deep fish does not keep rising. Something else takes over. We do not yet know what. It seems that somewhere around 8,000 meters, fish simply stop. The pressure becomes too great for the chemistry inside them. Below that line, the trench still holds life, but it is no longer fish. It is small crustaceans called amphipods and pale sea cucumbers. They carry on all the way to the bottom. Now, picture what is falling through this dark column of water. It is sometimes called marine snow. It is not real snow, but seen in a submarine's lights, it looks very much like it. The black water fills with slow, drifting white particles, tiny bits of dead plankton, fecal pellets from animals far above, bacteria, silt washed in from rivers and continents. Each flake starts very small. As it falls, it collects more material. By the time it reaches the deep, Some pieces are several centimeters across. The fall is slow. From the surface to a depth of 2 or 3 kilometers, the trip takes about 20 to 30 days. To reach the abyssal plain, 4 or 5 kilometers down, takes longer still. Most of the carbon never makes it. Around 90% of marine snow is eaten by life in the upper 1,000 meters. Only a small share drifts all the way down. That small share is the meal at the bottom of the world. The entire food web of the deep floor is built on what falls from sunlit waters far above. The creatures below will never see those waters. They live on a quiet, constant rain of leftovers from a world they cannot reach. The deep ocean floor is mostly flat. The abyssal plain is the largest connected ecosystem on Earth. It covers more than half of the planet's surface, and it is almost perfectly level. The ground rises by less than a foot for every 1,000 feet of horizontal travel. From end to end, the plain is calmer than the surface of a lake. On this floor, time moves differently. Deep clay sediment builds up at about 1 millimeter per 1,000 years. That is a single grain over an entire human life. Biogenous ooze, made of compressed shells and tiny skeletons, builds at about 1 centimeter per 1,000 years. Manganese nodules, the small dark mineral lumps that scatter the seafloor, grow far slower still. They add less than half a centimeter every million years. A nodule the size of a fist may be 50 million years old. A nodule held in the hand began forming when whales were still walking on land, when grasses had not yet spread across the plains, when the ice caps at the poles did not exist. In the deep, time has not stopped. It has only slowed to the speed of geology. Animals here live with that slowness. Their bodies move slowly. Their hearts beat slowly. They grow slowly and they reproduce slowly. Food is rare. Energy is rare, so they wait. Their patience is not a virtue. It is the shape of life when the table is set only every few years. And yet the dark is not empty of light. The first careful count of glowing animals in the deep was published in 2017 by researchers at the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute. Their lead author was Savarine Martini. They looked at the waters of Monterey Bay, from the surface all the way down to 4,000 meters. They found that about 3 out of every 4 animals were able to make their own light. That share stays steady all the way down. Among the jellyfish-like creatures called cnidarians, nearly all of them glow. About half of fish and squid produce light. Tiny tadpole-like animals called larvaceans, which build little mucus houses around themselves, make up about half of the glowing animals in the twilight zone. Light in the dark has many uses. It can attract prey. It can confuse a predator. It can call to a possible mate. And sometimes it seems to be something simpler, a quiet pulse of being alive, broadcast into the night. The deep ocean is not dark in the way an empty room is dark. It is dark in the way a winter sky is dark, full of small lights, slow and far apart, drifting past each other in silence. We move now to the floor of the Eastern Pacific. The date is February 17, 1977. A small submersible called Alvin descends through the cold water near the Galapagos Rift, southwest of Ecuador. Inside are 3 scientists. They are looking for hot water. Geological theory predicted that, along certain seams in the ocean floor, mineral-rich water might be rising from the planet's interior. No one had ever seen it directly. At about 2.5 kilometers down, they find what they are looking for. The water around the vehicle begins to shimmer. Heat is rising from cracks in the rock. Dark mineral plumes pour out of small chimneys, billowing into the cold like underwater smoke. And then, in the lights of the submersible, something appears that no one had predicted. Life. Dense, strange, thriving life. Around the chimney stand giant tube worms, nearly 2 meters tall. Pale tubes anchored to the rock, topped with bright red plumes. The plumes wave slowly in the chemical current, like deep flowers in a breeze that is not air. There are large white clams, bearded mussels in clusters, pale crabs moving slowly through the mineral haze, eyeless shrimp. None of this is connected to the sun. No light reaches this depth. No plant could photosynthesize here. The whole community is running on something else. One of the scientists later said, "We were not even looking for life. We were looking for hot water." That dive changed biology. It did not simply find a new ecosystem. It changed what people thought life required. What they had found was a hydrothermal vent. A black smoker, in plain terms, is a chimney made of stone. Here is how it forms. Seawater seeps down through cracks in the ocean floor, along ridges where tectonic plates are pulling apart. As the water sinks, magma heats it. Down there, under huge pressure, water can stay liquid at temperatures that would turn it to steam at the surface. The water can reach 250 to 400 degrees Celsius. In some vents, it climbs to 450. At those temperatures, the water dissolves enormous amounts of mineral: iron, copper, zinc, sulfur, manganese. It becomes a hot mineral broth. The broth rises back through the rock and pours out of the seafloor. When it meets the cold, deep ocean, just a few degrees above freezing, the minerals come out of the water all at once. They precipitate. The black smoke is not smoke at all. It is a blizzard of microscopic mineral particles, mostly iron sulfide, forming as the hot and cold waters meet. Over years, those minerals settle into chimneys. The chimneys grow. The largest known structure, nicknamed Godzilla, reached about 43 meters tall before it collapsed in 1996. Some chimneys grow as fast as 30 centimeters in a day. They are, in a quiet way, living geological objects, always growing, always falling, always being remade. Inside the hot vent water, in temperatures that would sterilize a kitchen, certain microbes are not just surviving, they are growing. Some bacteria pulled from these vents can grow at 250 degrees Celsius. They survive under pressures of 265 atmospheres. They feed on nothing but rock chemistry. The mechanism is called chemosynthesis. Most ecosystems on Earth run on sunlight. Plants capture light and turn it into sugar. Animals eat the plants, or eat the animals that ate the plants. In this way, the sun feeds almost every visible thing alive. Chemosynthesis quietly removes the sun from this picture. Certain bacteria and archaea can make food from chemicals alone. They use the energy released when chemicals like hydrogen sulfide react with oxygen. With that energy, they pull carbon dioxide from the water and build it into the sugars and proteins of a living cell. At a vent, hydrogen sulfide pours out of the seafloor in large amounts. It is a fuel source, refilled by the heat of the planet's interior. The Earth, in this sense, is feeding the life around the vents directly, with no help from the sun. Imagine a household kitchen, with every meal powered not by sunlight on a distant field, but by heat rising from the ground beneath, and gases seeping through the rock. That is what is happening at a vent. every minute of every day. The strangest of the vent animals is the giant tube worm. Its scientific name is Riftia pachyptilla. It can grow as tall as 3 meters. Its body is a pale white tube of tough material called chitin, anchored to the rock. At the top of the tube sits a bright red plume. The plume is rich in blood. It pulls oxygen and hydrogen sulfide from the water. But the worm has no mouth. It has no stomach. It has no gut of any kind. Inside its trunk, instead of a digestive system, it carries a single large organ called the trophosome. The trophosome is honeycomb-shaped, dense and soft. It is filled with billions of chemosynthetic bacteria. The worm and the bacteria live together. The worm gives the bacteria a safe home and a steady supply of hydrogen, sulfide, and oxygen. The bacteria use those chemicals to build sugars and amino acids. They feed themselves and they feed the worm. The worm's blood is unusual too. It uses a kind of hemoglobin that carries oxygen and hydrogen sulfide at the same time. The two never react with each other in transit. No surface animal does this. A 2024 study published in Nature Microbiology by Harvard researchers found another twist. The bacteria inside the worm use 2 different carbon fixation chemistries at the same time. They switch between them as the vent water shifts. The worm, in effect, tends a small, sophisticated farm inside its body, and the farm tends the worm. For an animal of the deep, the tube worm grows fast, several centimeters a year. The vent ecosystem, despite its strangeness, is one of the richest patches of life on Earth. Around the worms, the rest of the community gathers. Clusters of giant clams with their own bacteria living inside their tissues. Pale eyeless shrimp that find their way by chemistry instead of sight. Ghostly white crabs, sometimes called yeti crabs, brushing slowly across the rock. When a vent stops flowing, the community dies. The animals around an old, dead chimney are only shells. The whole life of the place depends, moment to moment, on heat rising from the planet's slow interior. Now we move from the bottom of the ocean to the bottom of the southern ice. In the middle of East Antarctica, the ice sheet is almost 4 kilometers thick. Beneath it, hidden from the sky, lies a lake. It is called Lake Vostok. It is the largest underground lake known on Earth. It sits beneath a Russian research station at a place called the South Pole of Cold. The lake is about 250 kilometers long and 50 kilometers wide. That is roughly the size of Lake Ontario. At its deepest, it is 1,200 meters from surface to floor. Above it, the ice keeps moving slowly from west to east, like a glacier in extreme slow motion. The ice itself is a long climate record, holding at least 400,000 years of weather in its layers. But the lake water below is far older. It has been sealed beneath the ice for about 15 million years. That is from the Miocene epoch. When that lake was last opened to the sky, horses were the size of collies. The Mediterranean Sea was sometimes a desert. The Antarctic ice cap was still settling into its modern shape. The water inside is just below freezing, around -2.65 degrees Celsius. It does not freeze because 2 things keep it liquid. Heat rises gently from the rock below, and the weight of 4 kilometers of ice presses down at about 400 atmospheres, lowering the freezing point. The water is rich in oxygen. The pressure of the ice has packed in about 50 times as much oxygen as a normal freshwater lake would hold. The water in Lake Vostok last touched sunlight before modern humans existed, before any of our recognizable ancestors walked on two legs. It has been moving slowly, in darkness, in silence, ever since. If there is life in Lake Vostok, that life has been evolving in isolation for 15 million years. In 1999, scientists first reported microbe DNA in something called accretion ice. That is ice formed at the very bottom of the ice sheet, where lake water has slowly frozen onto its underside. The DNA suggested a wide variety of microbes, bacteria that breathe oxygen and others that do not, cold-loving species, heat-loving species, salt-loving species, fungi too. Then came a stranger finding. Some of the DNA sequences seemed to come from multicellular life. There were traces that looked like the bacteria found in fish guts. Another sequence was close to that of a rock cod from the Antarctic coast. This finding is contested. It may be contamination from drilling, or it may be the first hint of an isolated food web inside the lake, possibly even with larger animals. A 2016 study in the Philosophical Transactions of the Royal Society identified two unknown bacterial types in frozen lake samples. The samples passed contamination checks. They may be entirely new forms of life. Whether the lake itself today holds active living microbes in its water column is still uncertain. Drilling fluid introduced into the borehole has made the first 2012 water samples difficult to analyze. The question is still open. Lake Vostok has another importance. Its dark, ice-sealed, pressurized waters resemble the hidden ocean thought to lie beneath the ice of Jupiter's moon, Europa. What we learn here, we may one day apply there. On the ice above this lake, the winter is its own kind of place. Concordia Station sits on the high Antarctic plateau at about 3,200 meters of altitude. The station is fully cut off for about 9 months of the year. In the deep winter, the sun disappears completely. For 4 continuous months, there is no sunrise. There is no sunset. The sky simply moves through grades of darkness. The average winter temperature is minus 51 degrees Celsius. The lowest recorded is minus 80. Up to 15 people live there at a time. They also breathe thinner air at altitude, a condition known as chronic hypobaric hypoxia. In studies supported by the European Space Agency, researchers found that the crew at Concordia entered a state they called psychological hibernation. Sleep became lighter and more fragmented. Positive feelings slowly faded. Active ways of coping, such as problem-solving and self-comfort, quieted down. This was not depression in a clinical sense. It was something more basic, a slow withdrawal, a quieting of the mind in response to conditions the human body never evolved to face. But the sky is not empty. In that 4-month darkness, the aurora australis appears above the plateau. Green and violet light moves silently across the cold sky. The researchers cannot see the sun, but they can see its effect. Charged particles from the sun, guided by the Earth's magnetic field, fall into the upper atmosphere above them and become light. It is the sun arriving by a different path. We travel now from the polar ice to a desert in northern Mexico. Beneath a mountain in the Chihuahua Desert lies a mine. For more than a century, miners have pulled lead, silver, and zinc from its tunnels. In the year 2000, the miners broke through into something else. They had been pumping water out of the deeper tunnels. As the water drained, the rock above opened onto a cavern. Inside that cavern stood crystals. Crystals up to 15 meters long, more than a meter across. They grew from floor and ceiling in long diagonal columns, like beams of frozen light in a cathedral built by the planet. The chamber is called the Cave of Crystals. The crystals are made of calcium sulfate in a form called selenite gypsum. They are thought to have formed over about 400,000 years, while the cave was completely filled with warm, mineral-saturated groundwater. Now the cave is dry, but the conditions are still harsh. The chamber sits 300 meters below the desert surface. The temperature is between 55 and 65 degrees Celsius. The air is at 100% humidity. An unprotected human cannot last more than a few minutes inside. Researchers wear ice-cooled suits, their own small air conditioners, and stay for no more than 15 or 20 minutes at a time. The deepest chamber, half a mile below the surface, was given the nickname Hell. One of the first researchers to enter described the experience as transformative, in a truly difficult sense. Inside those crystals, something had been waiting. In 2008, NASA astrobiologist Penelope Boston and her team began a careful study of the Naka Caves. They worked there for about 8 years. The crystals, when looked at closely, are full of microscopic flaws, tiny voids, pockets where fluid was trapped as the crystal grew around it. With sterile tools, Boston's team opened those pockets and extracted the fluid. In the fluid, they found dormant microbes, bacteria and archaea, suspended in time. Based on how slowly the crystals had grown, the team estimated that the fluid pockets had been sealed for 10,000 to 50,000 years. The microbes inside had been still and silent for that long. In the lab, the team fed the microbes with mineral mixes. The microbes woke up. They began to grow. They were not closely related to anything in the known catalog of life. Their nearest relatives lived in caves on the other side of the world, in volcanic soils, or in highly toxic chemical springs. These microbes feed on rock. They are called chemolithiotrophs. They release energy from chemical reactions with iron, sulfur, manganese, and other minerals. They eat, in the most literal sense, the walls of the cave around them. Boston presented these findings at the 2017 meeting of the American Association for the Advancement of Science. The full peer-reviewed paper has not yet appeared. The result is credible and still being checked. What it suggests is gentle and remarkable. Life can pause. It can sit for tens of thousands of years in a small pocket of fluid inside a crystal in the dark. Then, when conditions allow, it simply continues. The Naka microbes are part of something larger. Scientists call it the deep biosphere. It is the network of microbes that live in the rock and water of Earth's underground, not on its surface, inside it. The microbes live in deep aquifers, in porous rock formations, in water trapped in cracks kilometers below mines and boreholes. Together, they may contain as many cells as exist in all the surface soils of the planet. They make up one of the largest ecosystems on Earth by sheer number of living things. In 2013, in a copper and zinc mine in Ontario, Canada, scientists found water pouring from a borehole 2.4 kilometers deep. Chemical analysis showed the water had been isolated from the surface for at least 1.5 billion years. Other readings suggested it might be as old as 2.7 billion. It is among the oldest isolated water on Earth. The same chemical signature has been found in deep South African mines, where living microbes have already been confirmed. In 2023, in Sicily, researchers identified an aquifer between 700 and 2,500 meters deep beneath the Himalayan mountains. That water has been sealed since the Messinian salinity crisis, about 6 million years ago, when the Mediterranean Sea briefly dried up. It has not moved or mixed with surface water since. A 2025 study in Physics Today added another piece. The oldest groundwater aquifers had a more varied and oxygen-rich microbiome than expected. The assumption had been that the deeper and older the water, the less life it would hold. The opposite turned out to be true. The deep earth is teeming. We move now from the rock to the caves above it. There is a special kind of animal called a troglobite. The name comes from Greek words for cave and life. A troglobite is an animal so adapted to the underground that it cannot survive above ground anymore. It is what happens when surface animals get trapped in a cave system. They keep living there for many generations, sometimes for millions of years. Evolution in caves does not move toward complexity. It moves toward simplicity. Animals lose what they no longer need. They lose color. Without light, there is no advantage in having pigment. The body's energy is sent elsewhere. They lose eyes. Across the world, cave fish, cave salamanders, and cave crustaceans grow up blind. Studies on the blind cave fish show something striking. Even building an eye costs the animal about 15% more oxygen during development. In a place without prey or predators that need to be seen, that cost is no longer worth paying. And while some senses fade, others sharpen. Cave animals develop long antennae packed with receptors. They have sensitive bodies that pick up tiny water currents. Some can sense the magnetic field of the Earth. They feel their world rather than see it. The most famous of these animals is the ohm. Its scientific name is Proteus anguinus. It is sometimes called the human fish for its pale, flesh-colored skin. The ohm lives in the underground waters of the Dinaric Alps, in cave systems beneath Slovenia, Croatia, Bosnia, and Herzegovina. It lives in complete darkness. It is blind, although its skin can still sense light very faintly. It lives entirely in water. It keeps the feathery external gills of its larval form for its whole life. It is also patient in a way few animals are. The ohm can survive without food for up to 10 years. That is the longest confirmed fast for any vertebrate on Earth. When food is truly scarce, it can reabsorb parts of its own body for energy. In laboratory studies, starving ohms entered a state called metabolic torpor, a kind of biological hibernation. The ohm also lives a very long time. Confirmed lifespans exceed 100 years. It is the longest-lived amphibian known. A 2025 study in Nature Scientific Reports looked at the molecular signatures of ohm longevity. They found patterns that resemble those of other very long-lived species. Genes that protect the brain seem to be especially well preserved. The nervous system is maintained with unusual care across a life that may last a full century. An ohm alive in a Slovenian cave today may have hatched before the Second World War. It has felt no sunlight in its life. It has known no seasons. It has no day, no night. Its body does not keep a daily rhythm. It simply exists in the slow dark, waiting for a small creature to drift close enough to swallow. Each cave system for a troglobite is its own world. The animals cannot leave. They cannot cross the rock between cave networks. They cannot pass through open air or surface water. Each cave is, in a way, an island. The animals inside have been evolving in isolation since the moment their cave was sealed. In Europe, some of those events were tens of millions of years ago. The result is extreme uniqueness. Many cave species are found in a single cave and nowhere else on the planet. A cave angelfish in Thailand is known from only 2 small cave systems. The Belizean white crab lives in one cave network. Some cave snails die simply from being exposed to outside air. These animals are irreplaceable. A single pollution event or a small change in the groundwater above can quietly end an evolutionary line. That line may have taken millions of years to form. And so in the slow dark, life continues. Each of the places we have visited tonight looks, from the outside, almost incompatible with life. But life is not arguing with these places. It has shaped itself to them. The snailfish has remade its skeleton to absorb pressure. The tube worm has dissolved its own digestive system and replaced it with a bacterial garden. The vent microbe has rewired its metabolism, feeding on sulfur instead of light. The olm has slowed its body so much that 10 years without food is something it can simply wait out. These adaptations are not heroic. They are calm. They are precise. They are the shape of life when it is allowed to settle deep into a single, steady place. Think for a moment about how slowly all of this has come together. A manganese nodule on the seafloor adds less than half a centimeter every million years. A fist-sized nodule may have been growing since whales were still leaving the land. The water in Lake Vostok has been below the ice for 15 million years. The deepest aquifer on Earth has been sealed for more than 1 billion. These are the timescales on which life, given enough quiet, finds its way into every crack and pocket of the planet. From inside these places, the surface world we know would look almost violent. The wind, the waves, the shifting light, the endless tides of food and weather and disturbance. Down in the deep, things are different. The marine snow falls. The vent fluids rise, the crystal grows, the olm waits. The slow rhythm of the planet holds. Life in the deepest sense is opportunistic. Where there is energy of any kind, whether a photon, a chemical bond, or a slow gradient of heat, and where there is liquid water nearby, something will eventually find a way to use it. So tonight, before the room grows quiet, you can hold these dark, full places in mind. The pale snailfish drifting at 8,000 meters, the tube worm swaying around their warm chimney, the microbes resting inside a crystal in the desert, the olm hanging quietly in a Slovenian cave, gills feathering in still water. None of them know about us. None of them know about the surface. They live in slow, dark rooms in the basement of the world. And in each of those rooms, life still finds a gentle way to exist. Marine snow keeps falling. The vents keep glowing, the lake keeps turning, the crystals keep growing, the cave water stays still. And somewhere within this vast quiet motion, the night softens and sleep gently arrives.